Always do. All right. Anyway, so I got to the intro in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I hate this bit. So this might be a bit awkward, but after it should flow after this bit. But I just hate to start. Feel like that.
Just do it, sir.
Done it.
No.
Fine. Welcome to another episode of SENDHelp, and today we are with Carly and Mark, and we are going to be talking, well, a bit of everything really. More so Carly and Mark's story with their son, and just the struggles that kind of come with that, and we can offer any guidance we can, or any kind of character things for that. So it's pretty loose. It's just, I think the whole subject of this one is to bring awareness to the struggles of what it is like to have a kid with SEN and what you're going through now really with the school, isn't it? But I won't say that. I'll let you say that. So if I'll hand over to Carly and Mark, and you can explain your situation and we'll go from there.
So we've got a very beautiful 4, nearly 5-year-old. He is the light of our life. He is what we affectionately call a little shit. But he is under SEN, so he is autistic, quite severely autistic. He's kind of stuck between pre-verbal and non-verbal at the moment. He has also got some quite high sensory needs. So he actually seeks out sensory through loud noises, banging his head against the floor, the sort of seeking out the sensory rather than sensory overload. So generally speaking, as the balloon pops, a bomb could go off next to him and he wouldn't be bothered by it in the slightest. Also a severe haemophiliac. So sometimes we struggle between what that can mean with his autism. So one of the things that he does do when he's angry or frustrated is he likes to maybe bang his head against something, the wall, the floor, whatever it may be. And obviously with a bleeding disorder, it's not I mean, it's not good for any child, but it's really, really not good for Finley. And we're just kind of at the stage now where he's at playgroup and they have been like off the chart amazing. We cannot fault his playgroup in any way whatsoever. They have been so, so good. But he's due to start school in September, so we can't stay at the playgroup. I wish he could. I wish he could stay there forever. He would be very happy. But we've hit that decision of we have to legally apply for schools. But he doesn't have his EHCP in place at the moment. So we don't really know where he's going to go and what's going to happen with him, bless him.
Yeah, we were just talking about the EHCP just before. So what stage are you at with it, with the process?
He's past the first stage, the first panel. So we're into the second, which I believe is the last stage. But we're waiting on, so that should have come through on the 9th of April, which would have been great because we got told his school last week. So we would have known at that point whether, he had his EHCP in place or not. But they're being held up at the moment because of I always get this wrong, educational psychologist. Psychologist. And we've got no word. So I will chase anybody. On the phone, email, whatever I need to do, but we don't know who this person is. The specialist nursery that have been helping, the specialist school that have been helping the nursery, and the nursery don't even know who they're supposed to be chasing. Right. Now
have you got the name of a caseworker? So any paperwork that you've had from you're with,
yes,
aren't you?
KCT.
Yeah. Have you had anything that's got the name of a caseworker on there?
So there's a lady that's emailed me. I'm assuming this is what you mean. There's a lady that's emailed me to let me know the stages of what the EHCP is at, what they're waiting for and who's done what. So I have her name, yes.
So what I would do is I would contact her, because otherwise, like we were just saying just before we started recording, Mark, just about you don't know who to go to because you haven't been given a name, and then the school don't know who it is. So it depends who has. Do you know who's funding the ed site?
No idea. We didn't even know he needed one. It was literally in the letter or the email that she sent me to say he passed the first panel, he was going to second stage, and we're going to be getting in touch with everybody that's been involved. So the nursery, the specialist school, the speech and language, AAC, which are the ones that do all of the communication boards.
Communication,
And it also then said at the bottom that we also have an education, like he will also need an educational psychologist to come out and see him in nursery. And that's the first we'd heard about it.
Okay.
You'd think they've got to be quick, isn't it? It's the last term left, isn't it?
Yeah. What I would really say, Carly, is you will need to know who's going to fund that, because I think it should be the school. Who was it that started the process for the EHCP? Was it yourselves or the school?
No, the nursery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just that little bit of advice. That's what I would check with them, and also then the caseworker, because obviously you need to get this done while he's still in the nursery.
Yeah, absolutely. He couldn't start school without an EHCP. The kid can't communicate in a normal way, and I hate using that, but he wouldn't be able to tell you if he was hot or cold or sad or hungry or tired or hurt or, anything like that. He has his book, which is amazing. It's like a Bible, and he can point to things, and he's getting so good with it. But in a class of 30 other people, 30 other children, he's going to get lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so how does that feel? Like, not him being the non-verbal element as well, because we've spoken to parents before, and I've started to realise like how upsetting that could be as well, because as you just said, he can't even ask if he's upset, sad, hurt, in danger, or anything, and that just adds the extra bit of fear of you're not even going to know what happens at school if anything did, as well as it.
I think for us, we went and viewed a couple of schools, none of which were specialists, because we weren't able to, because you can't even apply for a specialist unless you have the EHCP. We went and looked at a couple of mainstream primary schools, and every one of them was kind of like, yeah, well, we have a SEND department. Yeah, well, we could kind of, maybe if we did this, or we're kind of learning to do that. And we both just kind of walked away, didn't we? And we were like, I want somebody to be excited about trying to teach my son, want him there. And that was really upsetting. I was driving to work one day, just crying my eyes out, going, nobody wants my son. My beautiful boy, nobody wants him, because he's got some extra needs compared to the children. And one of the things that both me and Mark have said is the most worrying, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is him getting lost in that. He's so all children are vulnerable, but he is so vulnerable to being bullied, because he wouldn't be able to speak out. He wouldn't necessarily be able to say or even point at a picture or anything, because he wouldn't understand. And a lot of it is his lack of understanding. So the thought that your kid could be bullied in silence is just terrifying. It is terrifying. And I don't condone violence, but it does make you go, I'm going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
The other thing is,
you need to find. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say the other thing that we've also got to be mindful of with the fact that he is non-verbal is that with the haemophilia, he can get spontaneous bleed. That might not show up immediately for us to realise we need to seek medical treatment. It could take hours, it could take a day, but if he can't tell us that something hurts, how do we then take the correct course of action? And again, if he's being bullied, and he can't speak out about that, but if somebody hurts him or throws something at him, again, he can't communicate that to us. It's simple things like him asking for a drink, or there's a couple of words that are coming through now, but they don't necessarily sound like what he's asking for, and we have to kind of play a guessing game or like a really bad game of charades to try and figure out what it is asking for.
And I think we can see how much he's improved. Every time they have a half term or a holiday, he goes back to the nursery and they're like, wow, he's come on leaps and bounds in just that 1 week. He really is. But when you look at him, and according to their documents, the stuff they fill in, he's about 2.5 years behind where he should be, which would make about 1.5 years old. Would you send an 18-month 2-year-old to school?
It depends how much it pissed me off. I mean, it's good. Mostly no.
Maybe a boarding school, but do you know what I mean? You wouldn't have an 18-month 2-year-old and go, oh, they're ready for school. because they're not, but he is legally. And that's a real mind-blowing thing, that to be ready for school when he's not old enough for school mentally.
Yeah.
Age-wise he is, but not in his brain. And he has got some wonderful little quirks and some wonderful little ticks, but they're also obvious. He really does tick, almost like Nate, we've looked after people with Tourette's, you know, that actual ticking that they do. He actually has that, so it's visible as well. So you're able to see that before he's even tried to communicate with you, which again just makes them vulnerable to being bullied and picked on.
So what's the issue? You'll probably know more about this, Sharon. So why is it taking? Why this is an issue that's happening? I don't know if many people know, but the way that the schools are going now, they're coming away from SEN schools completely, aren't they? Unless for the severe cases. So what I've heard is they're not doing any more SEN schools. The SEN school is going to be for specific, very high-end cases, and everyone is going to go into a mainstream with an SEN department, which in theory is brilliant. You've got the communication with the two sides, but they're not ready for it. And clearly, the EHCP is not even getting done in time for you to get the support you needed in the mainstream school. So you're actually sending all of these people in limbo that are not deemed very, very severe into mainstream schools with no support. That's what's happening. That's what we're having conversations with, isn't it? A lot of kids are going in like, what the fuck?
I don't think he is severe enough for that change.
And it's again, who's making these decisions?
Yeah.
Because it's again, what's the category of severe? Is it? Because it's not challenging, and that's the thing you need to watch out for as well.
Yeah.
Because you think it's the severe cases in the ones like we've worked with that need to be like 3-to-1 staffed. It's not. They won't take them. So these SEN schools that went to be not free from challenging behaviour and harm. So I don't know. It's very hand-tailored pick to who's going to go in schools, isn't it? And mostly they're going to end up in mainstream.
I think it's almost leaning to more towards, from what I've seen, more physical disabilities as the ones that would go to specialist schools. But even little things like he's not toilet trained yet, not through lack of trying, and he is getting there. He's not toilet trained. Okay, we've got 6 months till September, and he is coming on leaps and bounds, and we don't know that he won't be by September toilet trained. But right now, who's going to be changing his nappy?
Yeah.
You know, he's in the last week, he will come up and tell me or Mark, poo-poo, poo-poo. And I'm like, oh, you pooed? Okay, perfect, let's change your nappy. And he'll point to the nappy and he'll know that that's what he's got to do. That's great.
That's really good.
A month ago, he wasn't doing that.
We just had an awful carpets.
Yeah, so it's just trying to... My best friend in the entire world has got... he's 21 now. Autistic kid, autistic boy, beautiful lad, and all she has ever said to me, and I think it's a really good piece of advice, is don't compare him to other children his age, just compare him to what he was doing 6 months ago. So if he has improved in the last 6 months, that's amazing.
It's a good way to look at life as well, isn't it, to be fair? Yeah, it's a really good way to know it.
Yeah. Where was I 6 months ago? Well, we know where I was, Nate.
Yeah, that's it.
So, I just genuinely think it's the best way of us looking at it. We know all the facts. We know he's 2.5 years behind. We know that he is autistic.
Yeah.
We know that he's got communication needs. But what was he able to do now that he wasn't able to do 3 months ago or 6 months ago?
Honestly, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a good piece of advice, I think, for anybody, because especially when you're parenting or caring for someone who's got additional needs, you're always told about how behind they are, or that they're doing this wrong, or they can't do this, or they can't do that. There's a lot of negative rather than a bit of celebration on however small the steps are. It's a huge achievement for them. And it is important.
The first time he it was like a big celebration. I mean, it's not quite the word please, but we know it means please, and we'll take that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bless him.
So with resources, what kind of resources? Because I can think of a million resources that we would have used in Bradstow, but I think that then they're going to come into the thing of how hard it is to get them resources. So you say he's got like a picture book as well, like say PEX book, isn't it? That's what it's called, isn't it? Yeah. Have you been offered like a communication device or anything?
So the actual communication boards that you'd stick up on the wall, he had those, and then they've put together this book, and I have to admit there is a lot in here. and he thumbs through it. And don't get me wrong, he thumbs through it and he's like, I want this, I want that, thank you very much, Daddy, go do, or Mummy, go do. Brilliant. And he went to see the lady, the group, I think they're called AAC, I think that's correct. And they kind of sat with him to see how well he was doing with this book. And they said that we have never had somebody go from stage 1 to stage 2 so quickly, so smoothly, and for him to pick it up. So
Brilliant.
then looking at, is it June-ish time when he's next due to see the speech and language, that he will probably get funded for a tablet of some sort, iPad, Android, whatever, because it'll be like having the book, but it's got thousands and thousands of words, because there's only so many words they can stick in the book for him to carry around with. So he should then be offered that.
Yeah, one thing I would say with how well he's picked this up is we've mentioned about the play group he goes to in Bridge. There was a young lady there who sits down and she spends ages going through this, and she's got video that she then submits as evidence, and the support that Bridge Village Playgroup have given him has been absolutely phenomenal. And this young lady that works there, she's gone above and beyond. He loves her to bits. She puts in the time, and they're just brilliant, aren't they?
They are.
And not just with Finley, with all the kids there, they really do care. And I think they've played a big part in how quickly he's come along as well.
I think when we were looking for nurseries, the amount of nurseries I rang, and obviously we didn't know about the autism at the time, we suspected it because we suspected it quite early on. But obviously we were nowhere near, he started at a year old. When I was ringing nurseries, I only had the haemophilia to go with, and I kind of, was explaining over the phone to these nurseries, he's severe haemophiliac. The nurse comes out and does training with you, we medicate him, blah, blah, blah. The amount of nurseries like, nah, we can't deal with that, we can't deal with that.
Yeah.
Bridge is the first one that went, we've got kids here that have got this and this and this, bring him in with no problems at all, and just acceptance from the word go. It's like they didn't see any barriers, it's just a kid that we're looking after.
And admittedly, when he first started there was a couple of incidents where it was like, oh, he's injured himself, so they're straight on the phone to us, and so there was a little bit of a learning curve there, especially when they found his pulse. They were like, oh, he's got this massive lump and a bruise, and you go, is it just up slightly to the right of his nipple? And they're like, yeah. We're like, that's his pulse. That's where we
inject the medication into. It's meant to be there. It's all right.
But yeah, now it's just like they give us a call. They go, yeah, he's bumped his head. We'll keep an eye on it.
Move on.
Which is great. But it was the fact they were so willing to get the nurse in to go through. What do we need to do? What do we need to know? How, what do we need in place if he does have a severe incident? What's the course of action? And all of that's in place. They've been absolutely phenomenal.
And they've shared everything with us as well. They know my background. They know what I do for work. They know that I, run and manage the risk assessments and all of that sort of stuff. And so they would they'd shared the risk assessments with us, and they'd be like, you want us to change wording? If you need us to add anything else, if we're not quite thought out the box, is there anything we've missed? And they've just been so open and accepting of him.
And approachable. They've always got time to talk to you if you need to talk to them.
They sound amazing.
It's really nice to hear a positive story.
That's what I mean. If he could stay there for the next however many years of schooling, I would be happy. I wouldn't even be worried, but he can't. So, yeah.
Yeah. Have you looked? I know that without an education healthcare plan, you can't actually get to visit any special schools, can you? But have you got any that you thought?
You say that. There's a specialist school that has been working with the nursery very closely. They've sent some of their specialist teachers out to work in the nursery with them. It's a school in Canterbury. I don't know if we're allowed to mention them, so I won't say the name. The manager of that had sent me an email, invited us for a tour. So we have been to see a specialist school in Canterbury, and they are absolutely amazing. It was like a bigger version of the nursery. You could see the communication boards on the wall. You could see that they had kind of thought of everything, and they had it was just a really lovely place. But that comes with its own problems, that it's the opposite end of Canterbury to us. They start at 9 and finish at 3. They don't do breakfast and after school club. We both work full time. We both have to be in offices by 9 o'clock. We both don't finish till 5 o'clock. Yes, we could do transport. Apparently he should be entitled to that. I don't know. The thought of having to put my son in a car and wave goodbye to him and him not lose his shit. It's just heartbreaking to even think of. So we might have to work around that somehow. Somebody over the age of 18 has to be here when he's dropped off. My eldest daughter doesn't turn 18 till November.
Oh my God, so
Yeah.
close.
Whereas the mainstream school has solved all of the other problems. So it's actually really close to us. It has breakfast and after school club.
Right.
We know the school, my daughter went there, but it's not a specialist setting. So it's really hard to try and work out. And that's what I mean by us. I think we said this before we press record. We have got some seriously hard decisions to make once he gets his EHCP. And we know it's not guaranteed, but we have to think positively once he gets his EHCP, what we're going to do, because we need to do what's right for him, not what's right for us. But it also needs to work for us because we still need to work to be able to keep the roof over their head and food in their belly and, you know, all of that other stuff that we have to do as adulting. So it's really, really difficult. And in some ways, I really wish he hadn't got his first choice because it would have made our decision a lot easier. Yeah.
The other issue just to come back on is because obviously he'll start school in September.
Yeah.
We're saying our daughter doesn't turn 18 till November. Great. So, you know, you sit there and think, well, it's a couple of months to manage, but she's also in education. So she's not here 5 days a week. And although we've got two daughters still at home, they're both training, they're both learning because they've got their own lives. We can't ask them to put that on hold. So once we get to November, yes, in theory, there's somebody here a few days of the week, but we've still got a couple of other days. So because, you know, like we said, they're training up, they're going on their journey out into the big wide world. So with that, that's still another barrier to overcome as well.
I think, Nate, you've known me long enough, and some of the stuff that we have dealt with as a team previously, there's not a lot of things that faze me, not a lot of things that worry me. I have never felt so lost in my life. And I know that we as parents have our heads screwed on between my professional experience and the fact that, you know, just being a parent, between Mark's personal experience with children with learning disabilities and everything else. We've got our heads screwed on. We know to not get our hopes up. We know there's always a possibility that things aren't going to go right. We knew we had to make decisions that were going to be difficult, but I have never felt so lost and incapable in my life.
Yeah,
You are kind of powerless with it, aren't you? It's everybody else.
I think the other scary thing is that, I mean, my eldest is 27. When you look at what the education system was like back when he was going through it, and the fact that, so my eldest is actually my stepson. He has Asperger's, again, type of autism. But he's been through school, he's been to college, he's now an assistant manager working in retail.
Drives a car, lives on his own.
With the right input and the right guidance and encouragement, you know,
Definitely.
learning difficulties and disabilities and, you know, challenges, they can go on to have a fairly normal, productive life, you know, employment, etc. But when you look at kind of then and now, everything, and this isn't just to do with education and healthcare and everything you do, even in my line of work, unless you're constantly chasing and hounding people because staffing's been cut to the minimum, people are overwhelmed, unless you're constantly on it, chasing them. I mean, we're saying about this child psychologist that still has to go out and assess Finley. The other child at that playgroup's already been out and assessed. Well, why weren't both done together? You know, that's the way of doing it. But having spoken to the sleep clinic that we're also under, because with the autism, sleeping through the night and everything can be an issue, which we've got with Finley. Oh. We phoned them up because we should have heard from them within a couple of months. When we phoned them up, they're like, well, we sent all the information over, but you're telling us nobody's contacted you in 18 months. And then when the call was put through, oh, sorry, you got missed off the list, or, you know, the system didn't communicate.
Quite a lot.
And there's all these, everyone bangs on about how wonderful this technology is, but I see so many cracks where something hasn't synchronised or the information didn't go over. Yeah. Unless you're on it, all these people up, People are now reluctant
Yeah.
to give out contact details because they'll get bombarded and overwhelmed. So a lot of the time, like you're saying, who's the caseworker? We might have that on a piece of paper, but we might not.
Yeah, it's shit. It's awful. No,
Yeah.
well, going back to the working thing a bit as well, it's a shame that I've just found this as well, that when you work full time, it makes your situation such an impossible task. And not only, it's almost like annoying that you didn't just start off not working, because like even you'd have had the flat, you'd have had the benefits coming in, you'd have had anything, you've had the time, you could have even had a 16-hour job or whatever on top of that to fit around it. But when you're working, it's like I just had to do it. You go completely back to the beginning, don't you? Like I couldn't even get. I thought I was just going to get a quiet job, and then realised, shit, I can't even get a job yet. I need to settle him in, make sure he's there, and then I've just made it my own one. But if I couldn't do that, I'd be in the same position. Like, what do I do? Unless I sign myself back on and undo everything that I don't get claimed for, it's horrible.
And a lot of the places you need to speak to and chase up and phone, they work the same hours as you. So try and find them.
And I think, sorry, my work phone's going even though I'm not working. I think going back to what Mark was saying earlier, that some of the people we worked with previously, you know, the living situations and stuff that they've ended up in, and how they've ended up as adults and the level of support they need, it's really, it's not difficult, but you are sitting there thinking, is my son going to be more like our eldest, you know, to giving him time, and eventually he'll be able to go out and work and live on his own and have a girlfriend, get married, children, drive, you know, all of that sort of stuff? Or is he going to end up more like the people that we used to work with, you know, where they require more sort of 24-hour support, one or two people with them? You know, it's that not knowing that I think is the scariest bit. I reckon if we met again in a year's time, once he started school and things like that we may still be facing challenges, but I imagine they would be different challenges. You know,
Different.
It's that constant not knowing, constantly laying awake at night, going, what decision do I make? What is going to be the best decision for my son? And is that decision going to affect him for the better or the worse? And, you know, is there a way, okay, so we pick a mainstream school. If it isn't working, are we going to be able to get him into a specialist school? Does he go to a specialist school and actually he could do with more of the mainstream side of it? You know, are we then going to be able to get him into a mainstream school? It's just that constant not knowing. And the one thing I will say has probably been the hardest out of all of this is his sleeping. I know you've just touched on that. And I don't know any other autistic children, but this kid does not sleep. And apparently it's really common for kids with autism. But
coming back to my eldest, again, he's got a form of autism. Sleeping was never an issue.
Yeah.
I would argue there's ADHD has a lot of sleep issues, but I'd argue the autistic one's worse because they don't actually need it. Your ADHD one's more like you can't get to sleep and you get to bed at wrong times, wake up late and you're just tired. But I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Look at Rex.
Yeah, I know.
They can literally go to the minimum and not sleep for days. Like when you've got that severe autism, isn't it? Like it's sleep could be a massive, and there's nothing. Well, there is stuff you can do, but it's more of a routine, isn't it?
Yeah. Did you say you're with a sleep clinic for Cindy?
Yeah, no, we're still waiting.
We're still waiting for the consultant, so the paediatric consultant that saw him to diagnose him. We're still waiting for that appointment to come through, which should have been August last year, which I have chased. Because they have to refer us for a sleep clinic.
Yeah, because sleep, you know, as we all know, I know we're saying that some people with autism don't need it as much, but we do need sleep. We know that at some point.
It's just facts, isn't it? You do need a certain amount of sleep, your body's recovered. If you don't get that, you start showing issues. And as I said, we've seen it on the severe end of what can happen if you don't sleep and you end up with psychosis and end up never being the same again. But like that's how important it is. People miss over that, doesn't it? And it's the consistency of it. It's if you're getting a couple hours every night for months and months and months and months. It's not like you're having a bad week or two or a few days. It's every day you're not recovering to get back into there, and you never get that break. So you just end up really, really stressed. And so what's his sleep like? So
I don't know if it's the clock changes, but he used to go to sleep about 7ish. It's now about 8ish. So he goes to sleep and then he's fine for 2 to 3 hours. He's still in our room at the bottom of the bed. We put a bed at the bottom of our bed. If he starts stirring and I can get to him in time to kind of soothe him with my hands, because he likes to fiddle with your fingers. I can get to sleep. If I have for any reason hit a deep sleep at that point and it's taken me a little while to hear him, he's awake. This kid only needs a 5-minute nap, and that's
Right,
all.
And then he's like,
Yeah.
"Ow!"
It's like, ta-da, I'm back again. But he's like that throughout the night. So we've got a fairly good system in place. I struggle with sleeping anyway. With the fibromyalgia, I just struggle with it in general. So I tend to take overnight, and Mark tends to do the early mornings, because by the time early morning hits, I've finally managed to get to sleep, and then I'm in that deep sleep.
Yeah.
So we have a fairly good system. But as I say, I've got my own health concerns with the fibro and everything. I'm not insulting him, because I've said this to his face. He's 10 years older than I am. He's nearly 50 himself. You know, he's also struggling, and we've had 4 years of the kid not sleeping. Don't get me wrong, we've had the odd night where he slept all the way through, and then we wake up in that panic of, oh my God, is he okay?
Horrible.
yeah.
And just to touch on the other things, early morning for him waking up, it can be anywhere from 4:30. So that's why Carly generally does the overnights. I tend to get up with him in the morning, but sometimes he'll get up at 4:30. Sometimes it's 5:45. But neither of us are then caught up on the sleep. And going back to when he was little, bless him, yet something else he had a problem with was he's got a dairy allergy. So when he was born, other medical issues, he couldn't latch. So we were on bottled milk, but the bottled milk was then keeping him up all night because of the playing havoc on his stomach. And it was actually, we came under SIDS, didn't we, for his midwife?
Yeah. Health visitor.
Sorry. And even she was saying the problem is, though, you as parents will get to a point where your body just crashes, where you'll sleep through or you'll collapse, and that then puts the child in danger because you're not getting the sleep that you need. And no matter how much you force yourself to get up and stay awake, we both drive to work. We need a certain amount of sleep to stay on it. We've still got to be alert and awake during the day, operating vehicles, etc., etc.
I deal with people's lives at work. I make a mistake, it can be horrific. And the amount of times I assume you're the same, I've got somewhere and gone, I can't remember how I got here. Were all those lights green?
I remember seeing it. Do you know what? I remember you coming into work and just been out in set last night. I remember it. I remember vividly. She's quite often the kind of be up all night.
I genuinely.
Do you know what?
It's also
an important. Sorry. No, I was just saying this is important because we sort of started off talking about Finley and the importance of him having sleep, but the knock-on effect it can have on parents, carers, siblings, and it's that battle of trying to take care of yourself or find that time to do that, because it's just constantly trying to work out who needs what, isn't it? And
I do sometimes feel like I'm a coordinator in my own household. It's like, right, who needs what, whose appointments what, who's going where, right, if you do that one and take that one to this place, I'll do this and take that one to that place. And then I'm like, I can't remember the last time I went to the toilet. Have I eaten today?
Yeah.
I mean, I know when I've eaten, because if I don't eat, I get hangry and people die. So I know I've definitely eaten, but it is that kind of, hold on, I think I needed the toilet about 4 hours ago and I still don't think I've been yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I knew my kids were going to have additional needs, I don't think I would have fucked around all my life working with additional needs, because now I'm stuck with it and it's completely different, isn't it? When again, it takes over your life. You get to go home from the job, but you don't get to go home for this. And you're right, you are thinking, when's the next appointment? Who's doing this? I have to think about, obviously, baby mums as well, into the things about the coordinated parenting, which is very difficult between people with autism as well. So they go to different households with different rules, and it just throws them out every time. So you have to be really, really, it's a lot of work. It does, as I'm saying, touching on now, it's consuming without the additional issues of not sleeping on its own. Just to function as a parent and hold a job down is ridiculous.
I think this kid, he needs his routines. He genuinely needs his routines. His life cannot function without routines. But one of his biggest things at the moment is to mess with his own routines. And I'm like, why are you fighting us showering like we do every night and have done every night since you were born? Like, why are you fighting that routine? Because you're getting yourself upset because we're not following routine, but you're fighting your own routine. I don't get it.
Well, one of the other things that I've found over the years, especially, I've got 6 children of my own, and you got all these people that go, well, you should feed your kids this, or you should do this, or you should do that. One of the biggest things I've always gone off of is no 2 kids are the same. There is no book that teaches you how to be a perfect parent. And even after 6, I'm still learning things with Finley and how to deal with things, and things that work with the other 5 children to soothe them or calm them, or foods they liked, etc. It's still, we're still making it up with Finley and trying to figure out what he likes, what he doesn't like. So, with any parent out there, there's no hard and fast way.
And what's worked for him once won't necessarily work again.
Something that will calm him down last week, he just agitates him this week, and you're like, right, okay, I need to come at this from a different angle.
I think for him, the problem he has the most is how frustrated he gets now. Now that he is that bit older, and so he wants to do a bit more, and he wants to be out and about, and he wants to be, communicating and getting involved and playing and stuff. His lack of understanding makes him so frustrated. I mean, hates no. So we try very hard to not use the word no and sort of go about it in a different way, because he will have what we affectionately call a shit fit if we use the word no.
Stop finish works better.
Stop finished or all finished or whatever, but even then that causes tantrums. But we also have to sit there and realise, well, he's actually hitting his terrible 2s now.
Yeah, it's just on top of everything, yeah.
But because he's 4, he has just that little bit more understanding and that little bit more going for him that makes it even worse for him. Like it's really difficult to explain that you're dealing with a 2-year-old as well as a 4-year-old in one little.
I talk a lot about emotional age, and it is, especially when it comes to the behaviour side. They can have, like, with the ADHD, it's like Calvin's so young. Like, I've noticed this week as well. Like, he still would watch all the stuff that he would not be deemed to be cool with. So this Fortnite thing's a front. This whole Xbox thing's a front. He's doing this because all his mates are doing it, and he wants to be on it. This week I've had him without an Xbox, and it's just been Disney films and getting excited about going to the arcades, doing all the kiddie things. And I realised, like, even his emotional understanding still was 2-3 years behind his mate, where they can have banter still. He still doesn't even get banter. Like, he still can't get. It's still very young, very raw, and it's hard to see someone physically at some age, or knowing that they're you're 10, you're meant to do this, but not, and then having to shoot them for somewhere years below, like, and only doing it in certain aspects as well, because you don't want to do it for the whole life, because you're disabling them. If you start acting like everywhere they're like to, isn't it? You've got to give them some trust in the sense of, well, they are that age. It's hard. It's very hard to juggle that, and then knowing you're doing the right thing, and they don't die by your letting them too much.
I think also it's the. We don't want him to just use it as an excuse in life.
That's one thing with my eldest. It was like, we understand that, there's going to be challenges, and it's more difficult for you to understand things and trying to explain things to you. And if we go away, we have to sort of build him up to it for a couple of weeks first. But you're also not going to use it as an excuse to kind of coast through. You've still got, you know the
right
difference between right and wrong. You're not going to do something and go, oh, well, yeah, but no, you still need to own, done something wrong. You need to own that and deal with that.
Yeah, so it's not letting him understand that we will make concessions and we will do what we can to make life easier and more comfortable, especially at this age. But as you get older, if he is progressing, I mean, obviously, not if he stays kind of a 2-year-old at 10, but if he is progressing, even if it's a couple of years behind, and he starts to understand the difference between right and wrong, you can't just use the fact that you've got autism as an excuse in life. If you're capable of doing
Son?
My son does that. He
Just
said,
son.
yeah, shut up.
Okay.
My son does that. I don't know what you're getting at. He does make some poor choices, but he's at that age now where all of a sudden he's suddenly shot up. He's taller than me, and the difference between his mental age and his physical age is, like you were just saying about your son, it's becoming more apparent.
Yeah.
So And,
I
and
mean,
I have to remind him. And the thing is, I feel like I'm being quite stern, and it's a little bit uncomfortable, but I also know it's in his best interest because he's going to be judged in the body that he's in. So when he's out and about, I have to say to him, you know, he don't, because he's still got this real judgment and fairness thing because of ADHD and autism, where if something's not fair, he doesn't care how small the child is, and I have to make sure that I say to him, and it feels really hard as a parent because I keep reminding him, you're this age, you are this age, they are that age. That's, you know, whether that makes sense or not, that's just how it is. But yeah.
I mean, I don't work in the sector like Carly does, but I have got family, sort of, or more distant family, where you know you've got somebody and they're in a grown up's body, but they've got, you know, their capacity's like 8 or 9 years old, and if you can imagine an 8 or a 9-year-old in a full adult's body, and it is
with all those hormones as well.
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
Like you said, if they're bigger than you, but again, you say about being, you know, you feel that you're being stern as a parent. My parents, you know, you go back to when I was growing
Proper
up.
parenting is what he's about to say.
They were proper stern, and you know, they did. You know, you get clipped around the ear for, you know, giving them jip or something. But I also had great respect for teachers, you know, people in positions of authority. You know, that doesn't seem quite so regimented. To the point where, you know, I'd even go as far as I said, seeing teachers that are scared of children in certainly in the.
I think most teachers are scared of children. I think most teachers in school are scared of children.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
You went to SEN school.
Pardon?
That's because they were all scared of you, love. That's why.
Yeah.
No, I don't have that style of teaching, actually. It might appear that I do.
But I do say, I think that we've missed it, and there's a lot of acceptance is that it's hard you give everyone the label, as you said, but how many people are hiding behind a blanket of the excuse, and then how many the old society, like teaching and stuff, and now it's not so much they're scared of the individual, they're scared of the diagnosis, as in what they can and can't say, what they're allowed to do, what's going to come back on them, so they end up doing nothing and letting these kids just do whatever the fuck they want, and then there's got no control because they need boundaries. Instead, if you don't get no boundaries, you're good. That's what as a kid, that's what you're meant to do. Every animal does that, isn't it? You'll teach the kids what to do, what not to do. If you take that away, the kids are going to be just wobbly the whole life.
I think kids with extra needs need the boundaries more. It helps them,
much more.
it helps them cope with big, scary day-to-day lives and feelings that they're not quite understanding. Having those boundaries in place really helps them. But it just brings us back to, he's about to start school, possibly mainstream, in a class of 30 other children. If they don't have boundaries, he's going to fall apart. He's going to lose it.
Yeah.
And it's going to make something he really enjoys him not enjoy it. He loves nursery, and okay, school's slightly different, but it's still other children who he couldn't care less if there are other children there or not. But there's things to do and different things to do, and I think they can keep them better amused than we can at home. And he really stimulating, and it could possibly make him really hate going.
I know. And the thing is, something you touched on earlier as well, where he's pushing against certain things like routines, like having a shower. And that's another issue, is like PDA, like pathological demand avoidance or oppositional defiance disorder, which is all part of either an ADHD or autism profile. And it's really, I've got it, it oozes out of me, and it really annoys me because I will be oppositional about things that are detrimental to my health, which is ridiculous because I'm a grown woman and I know what I need to do. But if someone keeps telling me to do it, it's like I just physically can't. So, and I can articulate that. So for somebody whose language is a bit, is impaired, imagine not being able to tell you why they don't want to do it or can't.
And I've seen so many vines, memes, whatever you want to call them, like the Facebook reels, where somebody is autistic or is ADHD and they're kind of showing you what a day in their life is like. And they're like, somebody tells me to do the washing up. I was just about to do it, but I've just been told to do the washing up, so I'm now not doing it. And I don't know why I'm not, but because you told me, I'm now not doing it. And I'm not trying to be horrible and I'm not trying to be defiant. It's just something in my brain's gone, I now can't do that.
But statistically, there is also an element of human beings don't like being told you will do it, you will do this, you will do it this way. You know, we're kind of hardwired to some extent to go, well, no, because I want a choice. I want to do it that way, or I can do that in half an hour, or I want to do. So there is an element of that, and coming back to, like I was saying, with you know, with raising children, there's no book, there's nothing out there that gives you a clear instruction. There's certain things like with Finley that I'll do, and I'm like, I'm just going to sit back and let him do that and see how that pans out, and hopefully he'll learn from that. Whereas if I'm trying to protect him from everything, obviously I'm never going to let him get himself into serious danger. But there was an incident recently where he grabbed hold of the dog's tail. And we keep saying to him, you know, don't pull on the dog's tail. Or this thing. He did it the other day. The dog's taken off because it made the dog jump, and it pulled him face first towards the stair gate. But you're like, since then, he's not done it. Oddly.
That's a consequence.
Once, it scared the what's this out of him, and suddenly he's like, oh, I'm not going to do that again. I'd already told him probably 2 or 3 times not to do it up to that point, and then you sort of like, well, you've sort of seen the consequences of your actions. Take a step back, you know, learn from it. But we've also got to be mindful that his understanding is that of a 18-month 2-year-old rather than a 4-year-old. So it's trying to balance a book. It's a tightrope that you're walking.
His very favourite thing to do is climb on the windowsill. What haemophiliac kids think it's a good idea to climb on the bloody windowsill? The other day he did it with a nappy on, so all the neighbours could see him like against the window. Bless him.
So I had to get him down, put a nappy back on him, and then remove some weird smudge marks off of the window.
Oh, it's so hard. And do you know what? You just hit on something, Mark, as well, when you were just saying about how we're wired not to want to always be told what to do or not to react in a compliant way. And you said about choices. And I think that's quite good to remember, that if you can present something as a choice, so the child or the person feels they're making a choice rather than they are being told to do it. Does that make sense? That can really help. And it's probably something you do all the time.
As long as they have the understanding for that. And this is the problem he's in. He doesn't quite have the understanding. So even when we're offering choice, he just gets frustrated because he doesn't understand what we're saying to him. And as far as he's concerned, we're just telling him no when we're not.
And it's just a demand. Yeah.
And it's like, you just said you wanted a balloon, right? You told me what colour. I've gone to do it and you said, no, I don't want that one, or all finished. I'm like, okay, well, which one do you want? Like this morning at 5 o'clock this morning, I held up 2 different ones because he said blue, but couldn't make up his mind whether he meant light blue or dark blue. And then he was absolutely fine. But if I tried to do that again later, that probably wouldn't work.
No.
Yeah.
So
no, it is hard, and that's what you've been sort of saying. It's about making the decisions and knowing what you're doing is the right thing or whether it's the wrong thing, and it's trial and error, isn't it? And just seeing what works on that day or in that moment.
And just life in general, you'll make decisions. As a grown up over the years, I've made many decisions. Some I regret, some were right, some were wrongs. You know, with jobs and all sorts. There is an element of guessing. Yeah. Is this the right decision? Is this the wrong decision? That's why I keep coming back to, there's no book out there that says this is how you raise a child, let alone a child with any additional needs or anything. So, to all parents out there, it's a case of, everybody's still learning, and what works for one child won't work for another child.
I think also, if you're making a decision about yourself, you're making a decision about yourself. Even our older kids, if I make a decision for them, I'm like, well, they can tell me if they don't agree. They can, we can sit and talk things through. With Finn, there isn't any of that. We're literally sometimes milliseconds to make a decision. And we don't have to do that with rules. We've got a bit of time. But it's such a massive decision that could affect his entire life, rightly or wrongly. How does anybody make that decision? And when you ask for advice, so when I kind of said to him, the EHCP, will it say if he goes to a mainstream school, this is what he needs? If he goes to a specialist school, this is what he needs? Will it say this is just what he needs, whichever school he goes to? Will it, there's so many people, and nobody can bloody answer me.
I think nowadays a lot of people are scared of repercussions. So, like, you talk to a specialist and they go, we can't sway your decision. We can't make that decision for you. And
your parents, what do you want to do? Well, that doesn't help me because I don't know where's the best for it.
I'm not medically qualified, or I'm not, specifically qualified to make these decisions, but they're also scared of making that decision in case it opens them up for scrutiny or, legal action taken against them. And you sit there and even with the job I do, you speak to people now and they go, well, we can advise you this, but we can't, you've got to make that final decision and it's your choice at the end of the day. Well, why am I going to a specialist? I don't take the car to the garage and say, I want it serviced and go, yeah, but can you not do this or can you do that? And can you change that? Or don't worry about, you're the mechanic. You're the person that's supposed to tell me what I do or don't need. I don't come into you and you go, well, what do you want us to do?
Yeah.
No,
and do with the EHCP, once you've had the educational psychologist, they will take a lot of the recommendations from there to put on the plan. So what you might find is if they are going down the route where they believe Finley will need a specialist provision, it might become more difficult for you to get him into a mainstream. Does that make sense? If the educational psychologist, but as his parent, you have the right to challenge that if they, make that decision or recommend a particular provision for Finley. So again, that makes it really hard. Sorry, that probably made it even worse because it's just sometimes you feel like, that's all right. I thought I'd end on a nice cheery note. But as a parent, you have the right to challenge and you have the right to fight, and we can help you with that. Honestly, because nobody knows your child like you do, and you're really, really fortunate that your nursery is amazing because not everybody has that. I mean, Nate talked about SENCOs the other day, and it was really sad, but unfortunately, a lot of the SENCOs that our members and parents are talking about aren't very good. They're not supportive. They're trying to make really big decisions about a child. I wouldn't say like that, but they're making decisions on children that they might see for a few hours a week
when they've got no training and they're allowed to do it 3 years.
So you're in a really, really fortunate position that that you're able to work with the nursery, and but yeah.
To be fair, I don't think we would be anywhere near where we are. We probably would have been because we'd have fought tooth and nail for it, but we wouldn't have been anywhere near where we are as easy as the process has been. And I don't want it to come across for the parents that it is easy, because it really isn't.
No.
So they want to get people's hopes up.
It's hard work, but they've taken a substantial amount of the pressure off of us because they've been on it and because they've got contacts and they've worked with, or they've gone out and found and they've encouraged.
And this is the first time, okay, there's 2 of them, as I say, in his year starting school this year, but this is the first time they've ever done an EHCP. They've never had to do one before.
But they're
on it.
And they're on it.
Yeah, they're on it.
They sound amazing.
They are amazing. Yeah. They are absolutely amazing. But yeah, I think that's what it comes to. If a specialist said to me he needs to be in a specialist placement, I go, okay, he needs to be in a specialist placement. If a specialist said to me, as long as he's got an EHCP and they put this, this and this in it, he could do fine at mainstream, because he is actually very bright. You know, his numbers and his letters and his colours and recognising that I think he's going to be a professional safe breaker when he's older or something. He can work things out, and he's under tables working out how they collapse down, and the nursery have to keep changing the locks because he works out how to unlock the locks and everything else. He is extremely intelligent.
We bought a new gate, and in less
than 24 hours, he'd worked out how to open that thing.
Yeah. So we then 10 days of him just being able to let himself into the kitchen, so we then had to buy yet another stair gate to then replace that gate with a different lock because he'd figured it out.
Yeah. But if a specialist said, if he had this and this, he'd be fine in the mainstream, I'd go, okay, we'll put him in the mainstream. We just need some form of idea of what we're doing, because we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
the people that me and Nate have worked with have been adults. We haven't had to
Yeah.
go through as children going through EHCPs. They've all been adults. Even now, the company I work for, we have children, but I don't deal with that side of it. I have no idea. I can only go
This
by
is
my
exactly
own.
what I said.
Yeah.
Coming out of it and then I'm doing all the shit for Calvin.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Like, I thought I'd just been in adult services. I know every loophole. I know how to get them support as well. And then I realised it's all children. And I was like, oh, fuck. Right, this is completely. And that's why Sharon said,
Yeah, I was just about to say, we just don't know what is the best for them to do. And if the EHCP says, we plan more for him to go down the specialist route, fine, he'll go to a specialist school. That's not a problem. We're not going to hold you to it. We just need to, because it is such a big decision and it could affect such a big portion of his life. We don't want to fuck it up. That's our kid.
No. Yeah, I know.
With my eldest, it's like, you sit there and did every decision I made, or us as parents, was every decision the right decision for him? No, definitely not. But he's come out of it, and I think overall, keeping him in a mainstream, pushing to get the extra bits and pieces in, he's come out of there, he's got GCSEs, he's got, I think he's got a OND or whatever, BTEC or whatever the equivalent is now, because I keep changing that all the time. But he's working, he's got a good job, he lives on his own, he can drive, he does his own finances and everything.
Every now and again he'll ring us and go, I forgot how to cook pizza, or could you I've had a new washing machine, could you show me how to use the new washing machine? Which is fine, that's not a problem. Did we with those microwavable pizzas, the Chicago ones?
Yeah.
He put shit in the microwave, came out, and I'm like, Brandon, that's still frozen. Well, how are you eating it? Why are you eating it? Well, I put it in for the time it said, and I'm like, no, sweetheart, you put it in for the time for one. You've got two. You needed to double it.
It says per piece.
Oh yeah,
and you're like 24 years old at this point, and so there are still certain bits he struggles with, but overall, yeah.
I got a phone call off of him once. Him and his, I think it was his girlfriend at the time. They'd been out to walk the dog. Where we live in Canterbury, we're near some farmers' fields, and they'd gone off for a walk, managed to get lost. So he phoned me up to me to go and pick him up, and I'm like, but if you don't know where you are, how do I know where you are? Where are you? I'm in a field somewhere. Right, think this through logically. If you don't know where you are, I don't know where you are, and it was a really poor signal, so you didn't have GPS in it. But it's then explained, just saying, find a road, start walking down the road till you come to a house, a farm, something with something on there where you can go, I'm at such and such, and I'll come and pick you up. And 10 minutes later, yeah, sure enough. But
I'm in a field lost, help. How am I supposed to help you, darling? Yeah. What can I do to help you?
There's a green hedge along one side. It doesn't tear it down, does it? Most fields have a hedge or something, but oh, bless him.
Well, it sounds, I think, honestly, you're, I don't want to use the word warriors, but you are, because you're talking about this. Lots of other people will be going through similar situations. And Mark, I wish there was a book that told us all what to do, because that would make it a lot easier. But we're just sort of trying to do our best all the time, aren't we?
Beatings work unanimously. Just like fight the culture. Just violence does work.
It does.
But it's fine. We're beating children.
Honestly, don't encourage him, Charlie.
Yeah, but I'm used to him, aren't I? This is just normal to me. Mark, don't listen.
Don't encourage him. It's been brilliant speaking to you both.
Been lovely to speak to the two of you.
Good to speak to you.
There'll be lots of stuff we can offer on through our app as well. Actually, we're doing quite a lot of EHCP. So we're obviously got to wait for the psychologist, but after that, get in touch with us again, because we'll be able to help with it. Well, I won't. I'm learning, but so should be able to help. We've got quite a few parents at the moment.
Yeah, you're on the app already. Yeah, just sort
No,
of
I was one of the first. Nate sent it out to me, so yeah, I'm on the app. I've posted a few times. I've seen all the bits you've got. Yeah, I keep on the app. And Nate and Sharon, obviously, but I haven't known you as long, Sharon. Congratulations. You two are smashing it.
Right.
Oh, thank you. We hope so. We don't quite know what we're doing still yet.
Yeah. I think the hardest bit of it all was working together.
Yeah, working together. That was...
Two people with ADHD working together is just the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
ADHD people working together. Yeah. I'd love to be a fly on your wall sometimes.
No, well, there's not. Normally, there's only one of us in there because one of us walked out.
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't walked up.
No.
He gets
Perfect.
very passionate about stuff,
He
and
does.
then
He
he
does.
doesn't let me talk.
Has
And
he
then
got a
I
wheelchair?
did throw something at him.
Has he got
I
a
did throw.
wheelchair?
He has got a wheelie chair.
Oh, it's
When he
carpet.
gets
It's not
really
flat, it
passionate,
doesn't move.
he just wheels round and round and round. It's great. I feel exhausted watching him.
No, he was. You weren't in my face, but he was a bit in my face. And I went, you need to stop or let me speak. And he wouldn't let me speak. So in the end, the only thing I could find, there was a really tiny Allen key. So I like, chucked it at him. You know, when you think afterwards, I shouldn't have done that. That was quite immature and quite dangerous. But I've just said, just don't, and it didn't hit you.
No, luckily. I can't even sue anyone. It's my own company. Who the fuck am I going to tell?
It was tiny. I don't be such a baby. But he is hard to work with. I don't think I am.
Yeah, there we go.
Shall we start a marital podcast? You know,
Oh,
how
God.
working relationship podcast. You lot can deal with the sense side of it. We'll start doing employee marital stuff. Bless your heart. Well, thank you for giving us the time of day anyway.
When I press stop, it's going to say about staying on for a couple of minutes while it still records up. It only takes less than a minute normally. So actually, I'll do it now. So yeah.
Yeah, just don't go yet.